Princess Zara stood before the crystalline windows of the High Council chamber, watching the twin suns of Veltar Prime cast their final light across her homeworld. The golden spires that had been her birthright stretched toward the crimson sky, like accusing fingers. Each tower seemed to whisper the same cruel truth that had echoed through the halls of power for decades. She was broken. The Council of Elders sat in their ceremonial robes, their ancient faces carved from disappointment and political necessity. High Counselor Vexhan raised his staff and spoke the words that would sever her from everything she had ever known. Princess Zara of the Fourth Bloodline, you have failed in your sacred duty to continue the royal genetic legacy. After 37 cycles of life, your womb remains as barren as the Outer Rim wastelands. The Empire cannot afford to maintain a sterile branch on the Tree of Power. Behind the council, Princess Lyra stood with barely concealed triumph radiating. From her perfect features, Zara's younger sister had always been the favored one, the one whose body cooperated with imperial expectations. 3 healthy heirs already grew in the royal nurseries under Lyra's name, while Zara had nothing but medical reports filled with failures. The decision is final, Vexhan continued. You will accept command of the survey vessel Wandering Star and establish monitoring posts in Sector 7. Your exile begins at dawn. Zara said nothing because there was nothing left to say. The genetics that made her royal also made her infertile. The same bloodline that granted her enhanced intellect and psychic sensitivity had cursed her with reproductive failure. Every specialist in the Empire had examined her. Every treatment had been attempted. The result was always the same. Nothing. As the council dispersed, Lyra approached with false sympathy painted across her features. Sister, this truly pains me, but the Empire must come first. You understand, don't you? The Outer Rim territories need strong leadership, and who better than someone with nothing left to lose? Zara met her sister's gaze without flinching. How convenient that my failure serves your ambitions so perfectly. The throne was never meant for the broken Zara. Accept your fate with dignity. The next morning, Zara stood in the docking bay beside the most pathetic excuse for a starship she had ever seen. The Wandering Star looked like it had been assembled from spare parts and held together. With imperial bureaucracy, the hull showed scorch marks from battles it was never designed to fight. The engine housings leaked coolant in a steady rhythm that would drive any sane crew to madness within days. Her crew was equally impressive, a collection of misfits, outcasts, and prisoners who had volunteered for exile rather than face execution or life imprisonment. Chief among them was a human female named Lisa. Martinez humans were barely considered a nuisance by Veltar standards. Their species had only achieved interstellar flight within the last few centuries, and their territory consisted of a handful of backwater systems in the galactic arm. The Veltar Empire had crushed several human colonies during border expansions, but the creatures kept fighting with a stubborn persistence that was almost admirable. Lisa Martinez had been captured during the most recent skirmish. The human stood barely 5.5 feet tall, but carried herself like someone who had never learned to surrender. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical style, and her brown eyes held an intelligence that most Veltar would have dismissed as primitive cunning. Commander Martinez, reporting for duty. Your Highness, Lisa said, using the human version of a military salute. Just Zara now, Commander. The titles mean nothing out here. Lisa nodded, as if she understood something deeper. The Outer Rim doesn't care about bloodlines, only about survival. The rest of the crew consisted of Navigation Officer Kethmore, who had been caught selling star charts to smugglers engineer Rixtel, who had a gambling addiction that cost him his commission, and Communications Specialist Yarvin, whose political opinions had landed him in prison. The ship also carried a complement of maintenance drones that probably functioned better than half the organic crew members as the Wandering Star lifted off from Veltar Prime. Zara watched her homeworld shrink in the viewport. She had expected to feel sadness or anger, but instead found herself experiencing something unexpected. Relief. For the first time in decades, no one was monitoring her reproductive cycles or scheduling medical appointments or discussing her failures in hushed tones. The weight of imperial expectations was finally lifted from her shoulders, course plotted for the Kepler Nebula. Your High Princess, Kethmore announced from the navigation station. The title is unnecessary. Navigator set course and engage. Lisa Martinez approached the command chair. If I may ask, what exactly are we supposed to be monitoring out there? Officially, we are establishing early warning stations to detect incursions from the Hegemony Empire, Zara replied. Unofficially, we are being kept as far from civilization as possible. And what do you think we will actually find? Zara looked at the human with genuine curiosity. Most Veltar would never ask such a direct question to royalty, but Lisa seemed genuinely interested in the truth rather than political maneuvering. Suspect we will find exactly what the Empire expects. Nothing of value. Nothing threatening. Nothing that might require them to remember we exist. Lisa smiled, and it was the first genuine expression Zara had seen since her exile began. Then they might be disappointed. 3 days into their journey, the ship's sensors detected the first anomaly. A massive energy signature appeared on long-range scans, then vanished before they could get a detailed reading. The signature was unlike anything in the Imperial databases could be a natural phenomenon, Rixtal suggested from the engineering station. The nebula plays tricks with sensor equipment, but Lisa was studying the readings with an expression that made Zara take notice. This pattern looks familiar. Familiar how? During the last engagement with your people, we detected similar energy spikes right before. Lisa paused. Right before something very bad happened. The sensors chimed again. Another massive signature flashed into existence, held steady for exactly 17 seconds, then disappeared. The pattern was identical to the first detection. Lisa moved to the tactical station and began running calculations. Your Highness, I recommend we change course immediately. Why? Because something just scanned us, and I do not think it liked what it found. 3 months had passed since the Wandering Star began its exile in the Outer Rim territories. The crew had settled into a routine of monitoring empty space and cataloging stellar phenomena that no one back home would ever read about. The mysterious energy signatures had appeared 14 more times, always following the same pattern. 17 seconds of scanning. Then nothing. Lisa Martinez spent her off-duty hours analyzing the sensor logs, while Zara found herself drawn to the observation deck, where she could stare into the void and wonder what forces were watching them from the darkness. Between the two women, an unlikely partnership had formed, built on mutual respect and shared curiosity about the unknown. The morning of the 91st day changed everything. Navigation Officer Kethmore burst into the command center with readings that made no sense according to Imperial physics. A massive fleet battle was taking place just beyond the Helix Nebula, and the energy signatures were unlike anything in the galactic databases. How many ships? Zara asked as she took her position in the command chair. At least 60 vessels engaged in active combat, Your Highness. The strange part is that half the signatures keep vanishing and reappearing. Lisa was already at the tactical station running threat assessments. Those are human ships being attacked. I recognize the engine configurations from my old fleet. Set course for the battle zone, maximum speed, Your Highness. Rixtal called from engineering. Imperial law prohibits rendering aid to human forces. Imperial law also prohibits many things that happen in the Outer Rim. Engineer engage. The Wandering Star dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of a battlefield that defied comprehension. Human destroyers and cruisers fought desperately against vessels that seemed to exist only partially in normal space. The attacking ships would materialize long enough to fire devastating energy beams, then fade back into nothingness before return shots could connect. By the ancestors, Kethmore whispered, what are those things? The phantom vessels were sleek and organic-looking, with hulls that seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury. They moved with impossible grace, sliding between dimensions, as if the barriers between realities meant nothing. Their weapons left no energy signatures, and their hulls absorbed sensor scans like hungry shadows. A human destroyer exploded in brilliant fire as 3 phantom ships converged on its position. The attacking vessels phased back into whatever realm they called home, leaving only debris and radiation. Open a channel to the human fleet, Zara ordered. Your Highness, this could be considered an act of treason. Then add it to my list of failures. Communications opened the channel. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of a battered human cruiser. A woman with captain's insignia stood amid sparks and emergency lighting. Her blonde hair was streaked with blood, and her uniform showed the wear of extended combat. This is Captain Amy Foster of the New Dawn requesting immediate assistance. We have wounded and our engines are failing. Captain Foster. This is Princess Zara of the Veltar vessel. Wandering Star. We offer sanctuary. For your damaged ships. Amy Foster's eyes widened in surprise. Your Highness, with respect, your people and mine are not exactly allies. Why would you risk helping us? Lisa stepped forward. Because, Captain, we might all be facing the same enemy. This human captain studied Lisa's face and recognition dawned. Commander Martinez, I thought you were dead. We lost contact after the Rigel incident. Captured, not dead, Amy. These phantom ships have been stalking us for months. The Princess and I think they might be connected to whatever attacked your colonies. All human vessels, this is Princess Zara of the Veltar Empire. I am granting immediate sanctuary status to your fleet. Follow our beacon to safe coordinates. The phantom ships seemed to sense the changing tactical situation. 3 of them materialized directly in front of the Wandering Star, their alien hulls pulsing with strange energies. The ship's sensors screamed warnings as the mysterious vessels began deep penetration scans. They're not scanning our ship, Lisa said with growing alarm. They're scanning you specifically, Your Highness. What do you mean? The scan patterns are focused on your genetic signature, the same way our medical scanners work during physical examinations. Before Zara could respond, the phantom ships vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. The remaining human fleet limped toward the sanctuary coordinates, while the Wandering Star maintained protective formation. 6 hours later, the combined fleet held position in a dense asteroid field that provided cover from long-range sensors. Captain Amy Foster came aboard with her senior staff, including a medic named Dr. Claire Thompson. The human officers were professional but clearly uncomfortable being hosted by their former enemies. The attack started 4 months ago, Amy explained during the strategy meeting. Always the same pattern. The phantom ships would appear, take readings from our colonies, then disappear. When they returned, they would target specific buildings and individuals. What kind of buildings? Zara asked. Research facilities, medical centers, gene banks, anywhere we stored biological data or genetic samples. Lisa leaned forward. They're collecting information about human biology. But why? Dr. Thompson spoke up for the first time. Captain, if I may, the patterns suggest they're looking for something specific in human genetics, some kind of marker or trait that only appears in certain individuals. Have you found any commonalities among the targeted people? That's the strange part, Princess. The individuals had nothing in common, no shared ancestry or genetic markers that we could identify, but... She paused. There was something unusual about the scan patterns, the energy frequencies, matched readings we've detected from Veltar physiology. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The phantom ships were using scanning technology that could read both human and Veltar genetics with equal precision. There's something else, Amy said quietly. 3 days ago, we intercepted a fragment of their communications. The language was unlike anything we've ever encountered, but our computers managed a partial translation. One phrase kept repeating. What phrase? The hybrid awakens, Zara felt a strange sensation deep in her abdomen, a warmth that had nothing to do with the ship's environmental systems. She had been experiencing odd symptoms for weeks, but attributed them to stress and poor rations. Now, a terrible possibility began forming in her mind. Dr. Thompson, would you be willing to perform a medical scan? I've been feeling unwell lately. The human doctor nodded and retrieved a portable medical scanner. The device hummed as it swept over Zara's body. Then Claire Thompson's face went pale and she ran the scan again. Your Highness, this is impossible. What is it? According to these readings, you're pregnant. But the genetic markers... She shook her head. The father isn't Veltar, or human, or any species in our databases. The DNA signatures are completely unknown. Lisa stood up abruptly. The scans. Those phantom ships have been tracking you specifically for months. They knew something we didn't. But I'm infertile. That's why I was exiled in the first place. Dr. Thompson was studying her scanner with growing amazement. Your Highness, whatever is growing inside you, it's not following any known biological rules. The development rate is accelerated, and the genetic complexity is beyond anything I've ever seen before. Anyone could respond. The ship's proximity alarms began screaming. 12 phantom vessels had materialized around the asteroid field, and they were moving with obvious purpose toward the wandering star. They've found us, Amy Foster said grimly, and this time they're not just scanning. The 12 phantom ships held their positions around the asteroid field like predators circling wounded prey. Their hulls pulsed with rhythmic energy patterns that seemed almost organic, as if the vessels themselves were breathing. The wandering star in the human fleet remained motionless, afraid that any movement might trigger an attack. Princess Zara clutched her abdomen as waves of pain coursed through her body. The impossible pregnancy was accelerating beyond all biological understanding. Dr. Claire Thompson worked frantically with her medical equipment, trying to monitor a situation that defied every principle of reproduction she had ever learned. The development rate has increased by 300% in the last hour, Claire reported to the assembled officers. At this rate, the birth will occur within days, not months. Captain Amy Foster studied the phantom ships through the tactical display. They're not attacking. Why are they just watching? Lisa Martinez had been analyzing the energy patterns emanating from the mysterious vessels. I think they're waiting for something specific. The pulse frequencies match the biorhythms Princess Zara is generating. You mean they're synchronized to the pregnancy? More than synchronized. They're responding to it like the child is sending them signals. Commander Beth Williams, Amy's second-in-command, had been working on decoding wreckage recovered from earlier battles with the phantom ships. Her analysis revealed fragments of star charts that showed systems erased from all modern galactic databases. Captain, look at this, Beth called from her workstation. These coordinate systems don't match anything in our navigation computers, but the mathematical principles are familiar. Amy studied the ancient charts. Familiar how? The same geometric patterns appear in human archaeological sites on Earth structures that predate our written history by thousands of years. Dr. Thompson suddenly looked up from her medical scanners with alarm. Princess, the child is moving into birth position. We need to prepare for delivery immediately. That's impossible. The pregnancy has only been confirmed for hours. Impossible seems to be the operating word today. Your Highness, the birthing process began with phenomena that shattered every medical textbook ever written. Zara's body generated energy fields that interfered with electronic equipment throughout the ship. The phantom vessels responded by intensifying their own energy outputs, creating a harmonic resonance that could be felt in the hull plating. Lisa coordinated damage control as systems throughout the ship began experiencing power fluctuations. Whatever is happening, it's affecting our core systems. The baby is crowning, Dr. Thompson announced, but the energy readings are off the charts. When Nova finally entered the world, she did so in complete silence. No crying, no movement, just perfect stillness as she observed her surroundings with eyes that seemed far older than any newborn should possess. The child's skin had a faint luminescence that pulsed in rhythm with the phantom ships outside. Is she healthy? Zara asked weakly. Claire ran her medical scanner over the infant and nearly dropped the device. Your Highness, this child's cellular structure is unlike anything I've ever seen. She can survive in vacuum. Her nervous system processes information at superhuman speeds, and she's generating her own gravity field. As if responding to the discussion, Nova turned her gaze toward her mother, and suddenly, Zara's mind filled with images that were not her own. Ancient cities built from crystallized starlight, beings of pure energy traveling between dimensions, a war that consumed entire galaxies millions of years ago. She's telepathic, Zara whispered, and she's showing me memories that aren't mine. The phantom ships began broadcasting a signal on all frequencies. The message was in a language older than any known civilization, but somehow Nova's Presence allowed the crew to understand its meaning. We are the architects, the first children of consciousness. We have waited across the dark years for our blood to awaken. The hybrid carries the key to our return. Beth Williams cross-referenced the ancient star charts with the Phantom ship's transmission origin points. Captain, the coordinates match. The Phantom ships are coming from a system that was deliberately removed from all galactic records. Who would have the authority to erase an entire star system from navigation databases? Only the oldest spacefaring civilizations, the ones who built the first hyperspace routes. Nova's telepathic abilities grew stronger with each passing hour, filling her mother's mind with fragments of cosmic history. The child revealed that the architects had not died out as galactic historians believed. Instead, they had transcended physical existence, becoming beings of pure energy, who occasionally took corporeal mates to preserve their genetic legacy. That's why you were chosen, Lisa realized. Your reproductive difficulties weren't a curse, they were preparation. Your biology was uniquely compatible with architect genetics. Zara looked down at her impossible daughter. She's half architect. That's why the Phantom ships have been following us. They've come to reclaim their child. The peaceful standoff shattered when Veltar Imperial forces dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the asteroid field. Princess Lyra had arrived with a battle fleet including experimental bioweapons designed to sterilize entire worlds. The flagship Golden Scepter bristled with enough firepower to reduce both the human fleet and the Phantom ships to cosmic dust. Sister Lyra's voice came over the communications channel. I have come to retrieve you from this embarrassing situation. Return with me now and your crimes will be forgiven. What crimes, Lyra? Consorting with humans, harboring illegal alien technology, and producing an unauthorized hybrid offspring. The child must be surrendered for Imperial study. Nova began crying for the first time since her birth, but her tears were liquid light that floated in perfect spheres around her tiny fists. The Phantom ships responded to her distress by emerging from hyperspace in numbers that defied tactical comprehension. Hundreds of the mysterious vessels surrounded the Imperial fleet, their organic hulls shifting through spectrums of color that human eyes had never seen. The message they broadcast was simple and terrifying: return our child or face extinction. Princess Lyra's response was equally direct. All vessels prepare bioweapons for deployment. Target the hybrid infant for retrieval and eliminate all witnesses. Admiral Rose. Parker arrived at that moment, leading the largest human fleet ever assembled. Her flagship Endurance dwarfed even the Veltar dreadnoughts as it took position between the opposing forces. This is Admiral Parker of the Human Defense Fleet. Her voice cut through the communication chaos. Any hostile action against the child or Princess Zara will be considered an act of war against humanity. The humans dare to threaten the Veltar Empire. Lyra snarled. You are insects compared to our power. Maybe, Rose replied calmly. But we're insects who've been talking to other architect hybrids throughout the galaxy. Your sister's child isn't unique. Princess. She represents the next phase of galactic evolution. The three fleets faced each other in the most dangerous standoff in galactic history. Veltar Imperial forces seeking to capture and weaponize Nova. The architects demanding the return of their hybrid offspring. Humanity fighting to protect both mother and child while pursuing their own evolutionary destiny. In the center of it all, Nova floated in her mother's arms, generating energy fields that affected every ship present. Her telepathic abilities reached out to touch the minds of every person in the three fleets, showing them visions of what could be achieved through cooperation rather than conquest. But Princess Lyra had not come to negotiate. She had come to claim ultimate power, and nothing would stop her from possessing the key to architect technology. All ships attack. She commanded, kill everything except the hybrid. The first shots of the three-way war erupted simultaneously across the asteroid field. Princess Lyra's bioweapons lanced toward the wandering star, while architect Phantom ships phased in and out of reality, striking at both human and Veltar vessels. Admiral Rose Parker's fleet responded with concentrated firepower that lit up the void like a newborn star. Nova's cries intensified as the battle raged around her. The infant's telepathic abilities reached out in all directions, touching the minds of every combatant and showing them glimpses of what their conflict would ultimately cost. The visions were terrifying. Entire star systems consumed by war. Billions of lives lost to hatred and misunderstanding. The galaxy itself, torn apart by forces too ancient and powerful to control. Captain Grace Evans commanding the human research vessel. Discovery worked frantically to decode the fragments of architect language that Nova's telepathic transmissions provided. Her linguistics team had been studying the phantom ship communications for months, but the child's mental link gave them unprecedented access to the alien thought patterns. Admiral Parker. I'm getting breakthrough data on architect biology. Grace reported over the battle communications. They exist as pure energy beings, but they maintain quantum resonance with our physical dimension. What does that mean in practical terms, Captain? It means they can be disrupted. Admiral-specific harmonic frequencies can destabilize their energy matrix and force them back into whatever realm they normally inhabit. Rose Parker was coordinating her fleet's defense against both Imperial bioweapons and Architect phase attacks. Can we generate those frequencies? Yes, ma'am. But there's a problem. The same frequencies that would disrupt the Architects would also harm Nova. Her hybrid nature makes her vulnerable to the resonance patterns. The battle expanded beyond the asteroid field as reinforcements arrived for all three factions. More Veltar. Dreadnoughts dropped out of hyperspace carrying experimental weapons designed to capture psychic entities alive. The Architect phantom ships responded by manifesting in greater numbers, their organic hulls now numbering in the thousands. Humanities. Response surprised everyone. Admiral Parker had secretly been coordinating with other human fleets throughout the galaxy, and they arrived from multiple vectors carrying ships and crew members who had never been seen before. Where did all these vessels come from? Lisa Martinez asked as she watched the tactical display fill with human signatures. We've been preparing for this day for decades. Admiral Parker replied, ever since we first detected Architect technology we've been building, a fleet capable of protecting hybrid offspring. You knew about Nova before she was born. We knew about others like her commander. There are 17 confirmed Architect hybrids scattered across human space. Each one represents a bridge between our species and forces beyond our understanding. The revelation stunned both Zara and Lisa. The child floating in her mother's arms was not unique, but part of a larger cosmic pattern that humanity had been quietly nurturing, while the great empires focused on their territorial disputes. Princess Lyra's fleet concentrated its attack on the wandering star using gravitational weapons to trap the small vessel, while bioweapons attempted to neutralize everyone, except Nova. The Imperial strategy was simple: capture the hybrid child and eliminate all witnesses. Sister, surrender the abomination and I will grant you a quick death. Lyra's voice cut through the communication static. The child's power belongs to the Empire, not to human insects or energy phantoms. Zara held Nova closer as the infant's telepathic abilities grew stronger with each passing moment. Through their mental link, she could see the cosmic forces at work. The Architects had been watching galactic development for millions of years, occasionally breeding with suitable species to preserve their genetic legacy in the physical realm. She's not an abomination, Lyra. She's evolution. Evolution controlled by aliens that see us as breeding stock. I will not allow the Empire to become a nursery for phantom spawn. The Architect ships began broadcasting a new message, translated through Nova's telepathic interface. The ancient beings offered knowledge beyond imagination in exchange for the return of their hybrid children. They showed visions of technology that could heal dying worlds, eliminate scarcity, and allow organic beings to transcend their physical limitations. But the offer came with a price. Total submission to Architect guidance. Admiral Parker rejected the proposal immediately. Humanity doesn't trade freedom for power. We'll find our own path to the stars. The battle reached a critical point when Captain Grace Evans discovered something unexpected in the Architect communications. The phantom ships weren't just energy beings, they were the uploaded consciousness of an entire species that had faced extinction millions of years ago. Admiral, they're refugees, Grace reported. The architects didn't transcend by choice. They were forced to abandon physical existence to survive some cosmic catastrophe. What kind of catastrophe? Something they call the Devourers, entities from outside our galaxy that consume entire realities. The architects have been preparing for their return. Nova's telepathic visions confirmed Grace's discovery. The infant showed her mother images of vast darkness moving between dimensions, consuming stars, civilizations, and entire galactic clusters. The Devourers represented a threat that made all current conflicts meaningless. That's why they need hybrids. Zara realized. Physical beings who can channel architect knowledge while remaining anchored in our reality. Lisa was monitoring long-range sensors when new contacts appeared at the edge of the system. Princess, we have a problem. Massive energy signatures approaching from deep space. More reinforcements. No, ma'am. These readings don't match any known technology. The approaching vessels defied description. Geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly moving through space in patterns that violated basic physics. Their hulls seemed to absorb light itself, creating zones of absolute darkness that expanded as they advanced. Nova's telepathic scream echoed through every mind in the three fleets. The infant had recognized the approaching entities. The Devourers had found them. All vessels, this is Admiral Parker. Rose's voice cut through the chaos. Cease hostilities immediately. We're facing an extinction-level threat that requires immediate cooperation. Princess Lyra's response was predictable. The Empire does not cooperate with inferior species. Then the Empire will die with the rest of us. The architect phantom ships began retreating toward the edge of the system, their energy signatures fluctuating with what could only be described as fear. The ancient beings who had transcended physical existence were terrified of the approaching darkness. Captain Amy Foster brought the new dawn alongside the wandering star. Princess, we need to evacuate you and Nova. Immediately, those things out there, they're not here to capture or conquer. What are they here for? To consume everything. Commander Beth Williams had been analyzing the Devourer ship configurations. Captain, their hull geometry is designed to process matter at the quantum level. They don't just destroy civilizations, they unmake them completely. The first Devourer vessel reached the outer edge of the battle zone and began its work. Reality itself seemed to unravel around the geometric horror. Stars flickered and died. Asteroid fragments simply ceased to exist. The fabric of space-time developed tears that revealed glimpses of absolute void. Nova's telepathic abilities reached their full potential as cosmic terror triggered her hybrid evolution. The infant's consciousness expanded beyond her physical form, touching every mind in the combined fleets and showing them a terrible truth. The Devourers weren't just destroying this system, they were remaking it according to principles that no organic mind could comprehend. Admiral Grace Evans called from the Discovery, "I'm detecting harmonic frequencies from the Devourer ships, the same resonance patterns that can disrupt architect energy forms. Are you suggesting the Devourers might be vulnerable to the same weapon that could stop the architects? But we'd need Nova to focus the frequencies, and that could kill her." Zara looked down at her impossible daughter floating in a cocoon of liquid light. The child who had been conceived as punishment for her failures now held the power to save or doom every living being in the galaxy. The choice was no longer between species or empires, it was between existence and oblivion.